Morning, guys. Today we're going to be doing a headlight restoration on the headlights out of my Mustang. They're pretty bad, as you can see. See this little yellow line here? This is the color the plastic should be. This is it being yellowed and messed up. So we're going to get these taken care of. I'm going to kind of walk you through the process. First thing you're going to do is get them cleaned up. Any bugs and stuff like that that's on them, you're going to need to get off so that you're not sanding that into the plastic itself. Next process after cleaning them is going to be start with 500 grit sandpaper. You're going to want to really get down deep through. What you have to do is you have to get through this yellow plastic back to the clear plastic that's underneath. And then once you get to that plastic, you get it to like a good clean slate, you start stepping up sandpaper grits to 800 and then 1000 and 3000, and then you're going to do polishing compound, rubbing compound, and then polishing compound until you get them looking pretty much like brand new headlights. You guys will see. And as a bonus, I've never done this before, so we're going to try this. This is the third brake light out of the car. As you can see, it's pretty messed up as well. We're going to try to get that cleaned up. I don't know how it's going to work out just because it's not clear plastic. It's actually a red tinted plastic, kind of black at the top and like red on the back. So we're going to try to get that cleaned up and see how it works out. All right, well, here we go. All right, so here we are. As you can see, there's a drastic difference between these two headlights. This being what it looked like before we started, and this being what it looks like through the first step. This is 500 grit sandpaper. It looks worse, I know, but trust me, it'll get better as you go along. What you're trying to do is, see this transition line here? This is actually where the plastic has been like eaten through by UV light. You want to sand this headlight down to where there's no visible transition lines like this, because as you're going, you'll see them start to like kind of, as you're coming across, you'll see the line kind of move and you'll be pushing it almost, and you want to get it till it's completely gone. You can actually see it right here. This transition line, you want to make sure that it's not, you can keep going up into this area if you want to, but the hood sits right here on this car, so I'm not really going to worry about it, because if this is a customer's car, say you're doing this for somebody else, they're never going to see this unless they pop their hood, and the likelihood of them noticing the transition line, you'll see when I'm done, is very unlikely, because it's very hard to see unless you're looking for it. But you just want to make sure that that transition line is above the hood line or non-existent at all if you can, but just make sure that when you're going that transition line does not exist anywhere in the headlight that you're going to see. From this point, we're going to move down to a 800 grit sandpaper, and you'll see as I go through with the 800 grit, it'll start to clear up a little bit. You'll start to be able to see the plastic a little bit more, and it'll start to look more like this. All right, we're now through with the 800 grit sandpaper. 800 grit sandpaper is not as hard as the 500 grit. The 500 grit, you're trying to get through that sand through this yellowed layer. When you're doing the 800 grit, you're really just going over the whole headlight and just kind of touching it back up with the 800 grit to just smooth everything out to that amount of scratches. What you're doing is you're just slowly making the scratches finer and finer until the scratches are not there anymore. So you're going to see we're going to go through 1000 grit now. And then after that 3000 grit, and then rubbing compound, and then polishing compounds, just to get it to the point that the scratches are so fine that the naked eye can't see them. Technically, they're still there if you were to look at it on a microscopic level, but once we get to the end of the spectrum, you won't see the scratches anymore. And this headlight is much, much smoother than this headlight is. This headlight's very, very, like, you can feel grit, like it's been sandblasted by the road being driven for the 15 years that this car's been on the road, whereas this is now nice and smooth. This is just you sanding down all that grit and getting to a smooth plastic like this up here that has not been exposed to the road. So 1000 grit now, and you'll start to see more as I go through that 1000 grit that it starts to go back to being a clearer plastic. As you can see, the plastic is starting to clear up quite a bit. You can actually see through it now and see the reflector in there. And you can see here where it's still wet. This is what it will look like once we're done with all of our polishing and compounding. It looks pretty good all the way around. I have to say, this is going by a lot faster than it has for me in the past, because most of what I've done headlight restorations on are BMWs. And BMW's plastic apparently is exponentially harder than Ford's plastic. So it's a plus side, this isn't going to take as long, but the downside of that is this yellowing might actually happen again to these headlights just because of how soft the plastic is. So at this point we're going to step up to 3000 grit, and I'll show you what it looks like after 3000 grit, and then we'll go to polishing a rubbing compound and then polishing. Alright, so as you can see, it's definitely looking better, looks much better. Like I said, where this water is right now is what this headlight's going to look like once it's done. So to me, that looks pretty good. It looks like it's going to turn out really well. It's still hazy over here because it still has very, very fine scratches in the plastic. So we're now going to sell it to a rubbing compound and rub all and get those scratches leveled off more. And then we'll go to some polishing compounds, and it should look like a brand new headlight. I mean, it's close to not having to buy new headlights. Now, I'm just doing this for demonstrative purposes. This car is actually, these headlights are about, I think, $150 for some aftermarket replacements and not much more for factory replacements. So in this situation, it would almost be cheaper to replace the headlight than to go through the hassle of doing this. But if, I mean, $30 kit from the parts store, which on that note, I do have a special tool that I've used because I do so many headlight restorations. This is actually a kit from Matco, from their Silver Eagle brand. It is a dual action orbital buffer, and it comes in a kit like this. It already comes with this sanding pads that you need in order to be able to do this. You can buy a kit from any parts store. It's from 3M. It comes with all the sandpaper that you need, as well as a head to fit in a drill. I've used that kit before I had this tool, and I prefer that kit. I've used other brands, and I much prefer using the 3M kit, just because the sandpaper is good quality sandpaper. The tool that anchors into the drill is actually a really good tool. It also comes with a little pouch of rubbing compound and then a sealant wax to go over top of it when you're done, to kind of seal the headlight to help keep it from getting messed up again over time. The upside to doing this on your own is if you have a car that the headlights are slightly more expensive, such as a BMW, the headlights for that car can be $500–600 a piece. So if they're messed up like these are, it's $30 kit from the store, and a drill that you probably already have is much cheaper than replacing headlights. So at this point, we're going to move on to 3000 grit, and sorry, I already did 3000 grit. We're going to move on to rubbing compound, and I'm going to show you what it looks like after the rubbing compound. All right, so how's that look? Looks pretty good, right? Looks like a brand new headlight. Well, close to a brand new headlight. It's never going to look as good as a brand new one does. Nothing ever does. But as you can see, compared to the old one, we got all that yellowing out. This one's a little dirty from my splashing over. And just looks a lot better. Now, with the 3M kit that you would buy from the store, this is where you would be done. There's no more compound or anything else. You'd put your wax and sealant coating on and be done at this point. So this is what it would look like if you bought the kit from the store. You can, on top of that, if you're there, buy polishing compound, which is a little bit finer than rubbing compound, and it will make this look just a little bit better. Sometimes you'll notice the fact that it looks better, sometimes you won't. This is the rubbing compound that I use. It's actually 3M brand rubbing compound, and they also have a bottle that looks exactly like this. It's usually on the shelf right next to this one, and it'll say polishing compound. Other than that, we're going to finish with the polishing compound. I'll show you what that looks like, and then I'm going to finish at this other side, and we'll show you what they both look like completely done. And then, as an added bonus, we're going to attempt to redo that third brake light. So let's do this. All right, so how's that look? Pretty much like a brand new headlight. And I don't even know that you can see this transition line here. You really can't. It's right there, if you can see it in the video or not. I'm not really sure. Yeah, you can, right there. So like I said, this transition line, the hood comes down to about here, so you're not going to see this transition line on this car. Just make sure that when you're doing this, that you do that transition line up far enough, or just sand all the way back here. So we're going to move on to doing this side. I'm not going to stop and explain to you the process. I've already done that. I'm just going to hammer through doing this side and get it all knocked out. Show you what they both look like completed, and then we'll do the third brake light, and we'll see how that works out. I don't really know what's going to happen. I wanted to show you guys on here just because I didn't show you on the other headlight. If you look right here, see how there's like a light area, a dark area, and then it gets light again? That is what I was talking about when I said about the transition. So what you're going to do is, as you're sanding, you're going to be pushing that transition. You'll see it. It'll almost look like you're pushing water across the table. As you can see, this is the line, and you can see how it's starting to like wave up into this area. That's pushing that transition, and all you're doing, what you're seeing here is this line is this yellowed plastic, and the line above it is the clear plastic, and you're just smoothing it into the good plastic from the bad plastic. So you're actually sanding this down to the point that there's no like transition here anymore, and you're just going to push it with the sander as you're going. You'll see what I'm talking about when you're doing it yourself. Alright, so as you can see, this actually turned out really, really good. I'm rather surprised. Still see a little bit here and there, but considering what it looked like beforehand, you couldn't even tell that it was red. It was just all white and powdery looking. It looks pretty good. Let's go over here and we'll show you what the other two look like in the sun. To me, those look pretty good. I mean, short of buying brand new headlights, I don't think you can do much better. I mean, like I said, this kit's only like $30 at the local parts store. I'm not unhappy with those results. You guys let me know what you think of what I did in the comments, and see you guys later.